It's not a game you play. Just like life, it's not a game you play. Wow. Okay. I got two more things to say before I get into what I'm going to say. One of them is going to be lengthy. One of them is going to be short. And then we get into the boxing. Here's the lengthy one. Mark, chapter 14, into chapter 15. This is going to take me probably 5 minutes. They just had a meal on Passover with his followers, the 12 of them that used to stick with him all the time. So he called them disciples, guys who was around him all the time. And this particular Passover, they had a meal. And Jesus said to them, one of you guys is going to sell me out. You're going to be a sellout, and you're going to sell me out. And so all of the disciples, it was like, is it me? Is it me? Is it me? So everybody's saying, is it me? And the one who sold him out, whose name is Judah, in Greek it's Judas. Judah, of all people, he asked also, is it me? And of course, everybody's asking. So Jesus looks at him and says, you know what you got to do. Go ahead and do it. And Judas, who said, is it me? He was talking to Judas. Now, the others didn't pick it up because they were all asking at the same time. Judas leaves to go sell out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver from the Sanhedrin. And while that's all going on, Jesus turns around and says to the disciples, says, all you guys here, you're going to desert me. And he wasn't done. He said, for the scriptures say, God will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. So he wasn't just talking in a void, He was speaking from a prophecy that had to be fulfilled. He then said, after I'm raised from the dead, I'll go ahead of you to Galilee and meet you there. So Peter, who was one of the disciples, he said, if everybody else leaves you, I never will desert you. You can feel his heart, you know what I'm saying? He like, no way. And just to give you all a little history lesson, I got about 1 more minute. Peter was a guy who, he left everything. He left the nets, he left his fishing career, he even left his family somewhat. He still was with his wife and stuff, but he left his home and started following Jesus everywhere. So this guy, he can't conceive in his mind that he would turn around and forsake Jesus. He couldn't see that. And Jesus said, Peter, this very night, man, I'm going to tell you the truth. The rooster will crow twice and you will deny me 3 times. Let's fast track. So just to get to the story and get to the point that I have to make, that you don't play life. Life ain't no game. Just like boxing. You don't play boxing. Boxing's no game. We're going to get to the point. Fast track. Jesus goes to a place called Gethsemane, where there's a sort of like a garden place in Jerusalem. He prays to God to help him through the situation to the extent where he sweats blood. His disciples, they just busting sleep. He told them to stay up, pray. Man, them guys was tired. Them guys went to sleep. Their belly was full. They was tired. They went to sleep. Okay. He did this 3 times. He went to the Lord and he came back. You know, they were sleeping. He went back, you know, pleading with God and everything. Came back. They were still sleeping. Went again, prayed again, came back. They were still sleeping. And then Judas came with the people to arrest Jesus. The sellout. Judah. Y'all know him as Judas, but his real name was Judah. He rolls in. And as they're arresting Jesus, Peter gets up. Peter, like he said, to the death, bro. We're going to ride or die to the death. That's Peter. And he rolls through and he cuts off the high priest's servant's ear. Okay. Takes his sword, pulls out his sword and starts to fight. And Jesus stops him and says, hey, those people who live by the sword, you die by the sword. And he takes the guy's ear, bleeding ear off the ground, and he puts back his ear on his head and heals back his ear. Peter's watching this thing. This make no sense. Should be defending Jesus, protecting him. Jesus is not resisting it. He gets arrested. And as they arrest Jesus, everybody runs away. The first one that runs away is the guy that used to chill out right on Jesus' chest. He used to sit down on Jesus' chest, lean on his chest and stuff. John, man, he got out of there. He got out of there so fast that he left behind his clothing. Like the people, like they was trying to grab them as well. Not just Jesus, but them. And they got out of there. Everybody. As was prophesied. You don't play life. Life ain't a game. We fast track. Jesus is on trial. And Peter tries to sneak in to the high priest's home. So he's watching it from afar. He slips into the high priest's courtyard. And he sat with the guards warming himself by the fire. He wanted to know what's going to transpire. So everybody else didn't even stick around. They gone. Because Jesus being treated like some sort of fraud. To this day, they talk about Jesus as if he was a con man, as if he was a fraud. Then you ask people, well, how was he a fraud? How was he a con man? What did he do that was a fraud and a con man? And they never can tell you. They say he deceived the public. That's all they're going to say. Inside, the leading priest and the entire high council was trying to find witnesses who would testify against Jesus so they could put him to death. So they brought people to come and say, hey, this is what he did, or this is what he did here, to build up, a case against him. But they couldn't seem to agree on what he actually did that was wrong. They kept on giving different stories that didn't corroborate. And then finally somebody got up and said, we heard him say, I'll destroy this temple made with human hands. And in 3 days I'll build another made without human hands. But even then they didn't get their story straight. Then the high priest stood up before the others and asked Jesus, well, aren't you going to answer these charges? What do you have to say for yourself? Jesus didn't say anything. Then the high priest asked him, by the way, his name's not Jesus either. His name was Joshua. Anyway, then the high priest asked him, are you the Messiah, the Son of the blessed God? And Jesus said, I am. And you will see me, the Son of Man, standing at God's right hand in the place of power and coming back on the clouds of heaven. And the high priest tore his clothes when Jesus made that. He admitted to that. And he said, you all have heard this blasphemy, because he felt he blasphemed. What is your verdict? And they all condemned him to death. And they began to spit on him, and they blindfolded him and hit him in the face with their fists and said, who hit you that time, you prophet? And they jeered, and even the guards were hitting him as they led him away. Meanwhile, Peter was below in the courtyard, and one of the servant girls who worked at the high priest's noticed Peter warming himself in the fire. She looked at him closely and then said, you're one of those with Jesus, the Nazarene. Peter denied it. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, and he went into the entryway. Just then a rooster crowed. And the servant girls saw him standing there and began telling the others, that man is definitely one of them. Peter denied it again. A little later, some bystanders began saying to Peter, you must be one of them because you're from Galilee. Peter said, I swear by God, I don't know this man you're talking about. And immediately the rooster crowed the second time. Suddenly, Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. Before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. And he broke down and he cried. Judah, when he realized he betrayed an innocent man, carried back the money for the priest, saying, I betrayed an innocent man. And they said, what's that to us? He said, I returned the money. They say, we don't want that money. And so, in remorse, he hung himself on a tree. Now, in this story, we got betrayal, and we got forsaking, and we got betrayal. Peter forsook Jesus, and for self-preservation reasons, like anybody in this world who say they're going to ride or die with you. They not really willing to die with you like they say. You got to understand something in this life. There are going to be people you're going to be close with. There are going to be people you're going to help. There are going to be people you're going to show love to, and they're going to show love back to you. But there comes a point where there is a separation. And the very people, for self-preservation purposes, will sell you out and leave you high and dry so they can survive. There's very few people in this life who wouldn't do that. These people saw Jesus feed them, take care of them, do some wonderful miracles. They knew what he was capable of. But they couldn't go through the gauntlet that he had to go through. They had limits. We all have limits. And when the soldiers was coming for Jesus and then coming for them, and Jesus didn't look like he was resisting, they were not willing to go through that crucible and really die with him and for him. Self-preservation. And that's what happened with Peter. Now, the guy that actually set him up was one of them. He had eaten with them. He'd seen the wonderful works. But to try to be an opportunist and to get ahead in life, he sold him out. He had a brief conviction of conscience. But by then it was too late. The act had already been done. And he didn't repent of it. Instead, he killed himself. That's life, ladies and gentlemen. That's really how it works. People will come up to you and befriend you for things you can give them. And you have to understand this. If it happened to Jesus, and it was prophesied that it would happen to him, that all these people that he was giving all this goodness to, they all turned against him. They all left him. No one was there for him. I want you to understand this because that's life. You can't play life. And if you're going to be on a quest to do good, expect your name to be rubbed in the mud. Expect people to leave you. If you are alone, expect people to betray you and double cross you and say all manner of evil against you. Expect to be left alone because the chalice you're going to have to go through on behalf of the same people who are betraying you, the same people who are speaking bad of you so that they could be blessed, is a lonely one. It's you and God. Now, why did I speak about this today? Because today, one of you guys out there is going to go through that exact thing I just told you. And you need to hear these words. You need to hear them because today is your day to go through that. Don't be afraid and don't fear. You will make it through it. It will look like even God has forsaken you, but he hasn't. He's going to carry you through, and you're going to make it through today. Just remember my words. You don't play life. Life's not to be played. It's to be lived. Be as real with yourself. Be as real with the world around you. Be you and be true to yourself, meaning be real. And just trust God. He's not always going to speak to you. You're not always going to hear him. Let's put it that way. He's going to speak to you, but you're not always going to hear him. Now, why am I speaking about this? I spent 18 minutes on this, right? We're going to talk boxing because as an observer reading the Bible and as an observer watching boxing, you say, I could do that. You really feel that way. Just like, I could go through that Jesus went through. Oh, yeah, now I heard the story. All right, I know the pitfalls. Oh, yeah, I can go through that. As bystanders, as witnesses to something, it looks one way on the outside. But it's a completely different story when you're involved in it. You watch at any sport, actually. It looks easy on the outside because of the picture and the view you have. But if you're in that sport, you have to see those spaces. You have to see the defense forming. You have to see the offense forming. You have to see the formations. You don't have that view. You have to watch at the body language and how tough your opponents are. That's sport in general and competition. That's why I said, having done something, you appreciate it more. But boxing is a competition, no doubt about that. But the one thing boxing is not, and you must never get that twisted in your mind, is a sport. It is not a sport that can be played. Let's say it is a sport. It is a sport. But it is not being played. You're not playing boxing. You can't play boxing. What on earth? Hold on a second, people. What the hell? Okay. My washing machine just suddenly started up. It was so weird. Right. So the Florida Boxing Hall of Fame has just inducted some inductees. It's actually going on right now this week. And, I see Christy Martin, Nate Campbell. I saw those two faces particularly. And these are people who've had stellar careers in boxing, multiple world champions, etc. And when you look at them on the surface, they look like ordinary people like you and me, right? Christy Martin's been through so much. It's not funny, right? And she has a certain status. She helps to coordinate and work with and honor boxers for their service in boxing. So she's one of the ambassadors to boxing. And Nate Campbell, of course, he's a coach and a trainer, and he trains the next generation of boxers. You have to respect both these people, very highly respectable. So on the surface, they look like you and me, right? They're not like you and me. People who spectate boxing, it's not the same as doing it. It's just not. And I don't know for now if they continued, training or whatever, but when they were athletes, this is something you need to understand. Almost any combat sport athlete, actually, they formed calluses. Some parts of their body had calluses on them. Their knuckles had calluses. These are people who their punch resistance, okay? You punch them with your hardest punch, and it's like nothing to them because they can take a punch. Their bodies have been taking punishment for years at the highest level. I'm talking about people who hit you with a sledgehammer, knock me out cold with a sledgehammer punch, right? They wouldn't go down. In fact, their body doesn't even swell. They don't even get cut. If you were to feel their bodies when they were in the peak of their performance, their bodies would feel, even though they have some fat on their bodies would be firm and like iron. It's like you could hit them and hurt yourself if you were not somebody who was into combat. Okay? Their shins are like iron. And this is what these boxers are like. Their bodies are hard. They have hard bodies. Okay? Very hard bodies. Even the ones that look fatty, like Andy Ruiz, his body's hard. His body's firmer than you think. All right? Because the muscle's underneath the fat. The fat's kind of buffering the muscle, but these guys are fit. When I say fit, I mean these guys, if you just take an average person out there and you start to have them fight, within the first 30 seconds, they're tired, they're winded. Okay, I don't care how much cross, you know, cross, how much aerobics or how much running you've done. It's different because you're performing at a different level, and you have to get your excitement down. If you're not used to fighting, you're going to be so tense and everything. It's not the same. Okay. Um, let me see if I can give you guys the right picture here. Franchon Cruz just faced Savannah Marshall. Now I'm gonna tell you this: the punches they were throwing, the punches. See, somebody in boxing, it's not a big deal to them, but somebody who's not in boxing, the punches that they were throwing would literally kill a civilian. Let me say that again. Some of the punches that DAZN Cruz got from Savannah Marshall, some liver shots, some shots to the head, would literally concuss and kill some people out here. I'm talking about healthy people who just never sustained any contact, never been hit with punches and stuff. It'll kill them. I want you to understand what I'm saying and why boxing is not a game. Franchon Cruz, as you saw in that fight, she had a bloody nose. But at the end of the fight, she comes back and she looks like if she's some sort of designer model. I mean, she looks beautiful. Her nose is fine. She's wearing the glasses and everything, and she looks fine. This is a beautiful woman, right? You look at Savannah Marshall, and she's got, her face is a little red and stuff. You know, she didn't put a little makeup on her face. But neither of them have a busted up face. Neither of them have bloated eyes. Neither of them have busted lips. Neither of them look like somebody butchered them. And why? Because of their preparation. These women are not normal women. Okay? They're not normal. Okay? This is why if they get in a scrap with anybody, it should be called an assault. Because if they punch anyone, they could do serious bodily harm. Because these people are not training, their bodies are not training and getting hard enough to deal with these kinds of shots. I looked at the 168 pound, them women big, first of all. Franchon Cruz, she got an arm that's about 3 times the size of my arm. She's big, she's firm, she's powerful. Okay? And Savannah Marshall's taller than me. And that woman, boy, her levers, her arms aren't that big, but her lever movement is ridiculous. Okay? I can see why she's stopping women left, right, and center. Her lever movement is ridiculous. Her torque is ridiculous. Okay? And I was watching these women fight, and, I'm listening to these men out here talking some real nonsense, okay? About, women and they can't knock out. Man, listen, man, I'm telling you right now, Savannah Marshall would take out B-level and C-level fighters in boxing. Man, she could take them out. The kind of torque and power I was watching at, I don't know about y'all. Okay? And Savannah Marshall's hands are big for a woman. Well, she's a woman, but she got big hands, man. She got hands like sledgehammers. I know what I'm seeing. I ain't trying to pretend here. I'm telling y'all, that shit hit you. You ain't getting up from it. She was hitting DAZN Cruz with some of those. Of course, DAZN was riding it. She would ride the punch and whatever. I mean, you can take the steam off the punch by riding it, but still, dude, that's some sledgehammer shit. Like, go feel a sledgehammer. Just go pick up a sledgehammer or a pick. Go pick it up. You got to understand, these people punching with that kind of force, blunt force trauma. That's shit that mashes up people, man, destroys people. That'll break your jaw easy. You're not used to taking punches on your jaw. It'll break your jaw easy. Break it and you're bleeding. You may have skull trauma. It could kill you. These women are punching hard, people. Hard. I was watching this shit and I was like, how How the hell are they surviving? I saw Discern Cruz punch Savannah Marshall in her solar plexus and her liver area. And of course, Savannah Marshall bent down. She went down with the punch. So she kind of, what we call, she caught the punch somewhat. But god damn, dude, she can't take that flush. It'll break her ribs. It would break her ribs. Okay? That's the kind of power these women are hitting each other with. Listen. You can't play boxing. So when I was watching Jerome Ennis staring at Roman Vida, I'm gonna tell you right now, that stare down was not a game. I know they two human beings, but they not normal human beings like you and me. They're not. They're not. And y'all have to learn to respect that. And I just wanted to talk about this because I feel like a lot of us as fans are so flippant as to what's going on in that ring. You don't understand. This is sport where people die, and they could die real easy. Because when you're throwing with the maximum torque you could throw, okay? With the maximum turning effect and torque you can throw, you're not throwing you're not throwing to touch people, or you're not throwing just to win a fight. No, you're throwing to hurt people. You literally throwing to hurt. It's like being hit with a sledgehammer. Think about a sledgehammer. Just think about it for a second. So you don't play boxing. In there, it's your entertainment. You're watching these guys take shots. You don't understand what kind of training they went through to take those shots and to take the steam off those shots. And just because you seen them doing that, one little mistake, and somebody is not just going to sleep, somebody's not getting back up. Okay? But these guys are so versed in it and they're so used to it that they don't make those mistakes. Every now and then somebody does, like Tony Harrison. And you see what happens. All right, they get concussed. That's why they're drifting all around the ring. Like if they punch drunk, it's because they got concussed. The brain slammed into the skull, even though there's membrane fluid in between there. It's not enough. And it took damage to the brain. And there's some scarring that happens on the outer surface of the brain because of that. It's a very, very, very dangerous sport, people, that we watch. And then we have criticisms for boxers. You've got to respect these boxers, man. You got to respect. This is the modern gladiator. You know. And back in the day, the gladiators fought to the death. And a gladiator could be a man, it could be a woman, it didn't matter. Death doesn't care. It's not going to give you a break because you're a woman. So both of them had to train to the max. You have to understand, these people and their mentality is not the same. In a civilized society, we are taught not to hurt each other. And there are laws to prevent that. But once you get in that square circle and you sign that agreement, you are signing to assault another human being who can also assault you. And your weapon is your hands. I want you to understand that's not a game. You don't play that. I want to discuss something else. I'm changing topics here. I would say to those people of you who likes to fight, you like to fight, you like to get in battles, you like to fight people, you like to put hands on people. I want you to do me a favor. Look in your area for the nearest gym. I want you to go there. And I want you to start sparring. Go in there, jump in the ring, get some gloves on. Go in there and just start sparring. You like to fight? Let's begin with boxing. Go in there and start sparring. Hopefully you're sparring somebody who has enough experience to teach you a lesson, but at the same time, not put a beating on you such that you get damaged permanently and you can't come back. Because it's not easy. This sport's not easy. It's highly competitive, but it's not easy. And the highest echelon fighters you see and the names you call and the names you talk about all the time, they the real top of the top. You know, it was a mixture of connections, you know, the right company that they coming up in, the big companies. You know, some of them did it on their own and broke through. But you're talking about people who, as a civilian, okay, so let me explain how I think of boxing. Boxing reminds me of policing. It reminds me of being in the military or National Guard. It reminds me of people, I think people with similar mindsets, you know, who like combat and war, will actually like boxing, okay? People who are violent, who tend to get in a lot of fights, who want to shoot people, rob, steal, and all that. Boxing is a beautiful place for them to go and learn discipline and learn true combat, because you're on an even playing field. And then you start to learn how to fight and how to fight effectively. I mean, you can go into other martial arts, MMA, whatever, go into the gym and learn. But it's all about the learning, being schooled, having a discipline, because it helps you, especially if you have a temper or you're somebody who flares up or gets angry. It's really going to help you. And I'd advocate that as many people as possible, if you have temper problems, even if you have discipline problems, maybe you have addictions, whatever it is, boxing can help you if you listen and you follow instructions from a good teacher. Okay? You don't have to be someone who is going to continue a career in boxing. You can, whatever thing you're doing, you can use boxing as a discipline. I'm not talking about just going on a punching bag and punching. No, I'm talking about doing it, like literally going in the ring, starting to spar people and stuff. I'm not saying you need to skip all the steps. You know, there's different ways how you can go about doing it to build yourself up. But if you want to jump in the ring and spar somebody, even if it's for fun or whatever, it really, there's no fun in it, by the way. You can get hit and hurt really, really bad. But the point is that you have to do it to really appreciate it. Okay? You have to do it to really appreciate it. And you have to respect it, because what you see on TV, trust me, man, you're not feeling it. If you was feeling it, you have a totally different respect and awe for it. So let's start to have respect for the fighters, please. Okay? Because just like life, you don't play boxing and you don't play life. Okay? So before you're quick to desert a boxer, before you're quick to try and sell out a boxer, before you're quick to go out there and bad talk a boxer, please understand these people are not like you and I. And the sacrifices and the things that they do, even though they may cut corners here or there, like we all do, have a little more respect. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go into Devin Haney and Shakur Stevenson again. I'm also going to go into Canelo versus Charlo. These are hot topics. I'll talk a little bit about Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford to finish off this hour of the stream. I felt it was necessary to go into all those topics there. so that now we can actually talk about boxing in the right frame of mind as fans. I know some of you guys are gonna pick your favorites. Some of you guys like Bud. Some of you guys like Errol. That's all right. That's good. And you all can banter with each other and have fun. But do understand at the end of the day that this is a tough fight for both guys. I was listening to a nice podcast. It was hosted by Showtime, and you also see it on PBC, where Sean Porter, Cal Brook, Bradman Edwards, and Virgil Hunter were all as professionals discussing the fight between Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And they made some really great points, I gotta say. You know, I love when they really go into the meat and bones of boxing, and they did that this time. You know, they started to discuss the different aspects and the different outcomes that are possible, the nature of these people. And I think everybody agrees this fight's going to come down to a fight of attrition, as Errol Spence said so correctly, because Errol's going to be on his P's and Q's when it comes to looking for counters from Terrence. So I think Errol's going to make Terrence fight in this fight. And Terrence is a very skilled fighter. I'm pretty sure Terrence is going to make adjustments to deal with whatever he's presented with Errol. It'll be up to Errol to make some more adjustments when Terrence does. I think it's going to be a back and forth. I think this is going to be one of those fights you're going to remember for a long time, just because of the style matchup and just the aggression of both fighters. So I expect this fight to be a tremendous fight. One to remember. One of the things that a lot of people, I heard Sean Porter say, which I thought was quite interesting, is he's saying that if Terrence Crawford was to beat Errol Spence, he'd be on the level of a Manny Pacquiao, a Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward. No doubt. He'd be one of those special fighters. But I just want to say, I think he would be actually above those guys, because what he would have accomplished is he would have been a two-time undisputed champion, which has not ever happened in the four-belt era with men's boxing. Add to that he's also a world champion at a third division, which would be lightweight, actually a fourth division. He would be a four-divisional, two-divisional undisputed world champion with championships in two extra divisions. So he'd be a four-divisional champion and two-divisional undisputed champion. That's just ridiculous, just thinking about it. So that in and of itself puts him in a category that separates to Manny Pacquiao, to Andre Ward, to Floyd Mayweather, because nobody, they never did that. Okay, Andre Ward did face some prime fighters, but he never fought a prime fighter for undisputed. And a prime fighter who many people thought was bigger, stronger than him, really good when it comes to boxing. And like I said, Errol Spence, we have never seen peak Errol Spence. We've never seen what Errol Spence can completely do. There's a question mark on what Errol can do, particularly after the Mikey Garcia fight. We realized, Errol can do a whole lot more stuff, right? And we saw glimpses of Errol doing some more things in his fights against Danny Garcia when he was really dancing in front of Danny. He was peeking right. He pushed his head right into the slot, and Danny couldn't counter him because of the angle on which he was. So Errol's a very, very special fighter. I can't explain to you guys how much you guys underappreciate Errol and what he can bring to the table. We haven't seen the best of Errol at all. So, but having that unknown in there, because people think Errol can just walk people down, that's all he does. No, Errol can do all kinds of things, right? But he just, spatially speaking, Errol can get smaller. He can crouch. Okay, so let me explain a couple of things about Errol that a lot of people overlook. Errol's a long guy. He's long. He's rangy. But Errol has the ability to collapse his long arms, almost like Floyd Mayweather, and he gets leverage off his shots at a very, very tight distance. He can be very, very close to you and still get his shots off. You can body to body and he'll still get the shots off. All right? That's a very special thing. I've seen Devin Haney do it. Devin Haney's also long, and he can collapse his arms, get short shots. I've seen Ryan Garcia kind of do it, but he does it in a different way. He shortens up his shots, right? But these guys, they get as much leverage as they can out of their shots. So they do looping shots as they're throwing the shots on the inside, but they collapse their arms. And they come off of at certain angles. The thing with Errol that Terrence is going to have to solve is going to be his angles. And these angles are not just in the horizontal plane, they're also vertical angles, because Errol can change levels, right? Errol can squat down. He can squat himself right down and get shorter than you. So he can throw a punch from low to high. So as much as Terrence is 5'9", I believe, and Errol's supposed to be 5'9", they're supposed to be the same height, but he's not. Errol's taller than him. Errol can get shorter than Terrence. He can literally squat all the way down. Errol's been doing those drills that boxers should be doing. You could tell. He done them drills. He put in the work. So one of the drills is squatting into your stance. Errol's stance is ridiculous. Like Errol's balance and stance, this is the strength of Errol Spence is his footwork. And there are very few fighters who can do what Errol does. And that's where he has his advantage over Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford's footwork is nowhere near the footwork of Errol Spence. Just nowhere near it. His balance is nowhere near Errol Spence's balance. No, it's just nowhere near it. Right? The things that Errol can do, Terrence cannot do when it comes to squatting into your stance completely. Completely squatting into your stance. He can get lower than Terrence Crawford. Guarantee you that. Okay? He can shift levels. So Errol has perfected certain things. And one of them is his footwork, his jab, his stances. He's perfected the stances so you can get the optimal defense when he needs it. And his balance is ridiculous. Okay? Errol could do a 180-degree turn. He could do a 270-degree turn. He could do a 360-degree turn. He can come in off a 20-degree angle. He can come in off a 30-degree angle, still get leverage off his punches. And these are tight angles, on an opponent. So, and remember, he can collapse those long arms and he can work the inside. He can throw short shots or he can literally loop his shots and get bigger shots. He changes the rhythm on his jab. He changes the rhythm on his punches. And he does it all seamlessly while keeping a certain level of activity. So that is why Errol was able to handle Shawn Porter, because even when Shawn Porter started coming off of those crazy angles and was so quickly closing the distance, Errol began to see what was going on and he started pivoting with Shawn. He would pivot with him. So it's Errol can really pivot too. Errol really has, I think Floyd identified this before, he really has great pivot work. So there's a lot of stuff that people don't understand, which Terrence is not going to get away with Errol with, because Errol's not going to just be directly in front of him. Never. Errol's never directly in front of you. And if you're not paying attention and you're not pivoting with Errol, you're going to have a hard night. Very hard night, because he's going to be raining punches on you. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't realize. The Errol's footwork and balance is ridiculous. Like, he really worked on that. And that makes his boxing much more easier because he can get in position faster than another guy can. Shawn was one step ahead of him, and that's why I thought Shawn, at least for a certain part of the fight, he was giving Errol some problems. But then Errol started to figure him out, and Errol started closing the distance and landing those short little shots on Shawn that was taking his energy out of him. And Shawn didn't realize that Errol was basically landing body shots on him the whole night. That's how he got the knockdown, because Shawn wasn't strong enough coming down to the end. Shawn really trained for that fight. He even did weight training to get stronger. So Shawn really put in, he didn't cut no corners against Errol, whereas he did cut corners against Crawford, telling his father he don't need to swim after you run, and he trying to conserve energy. That's stupid. You want to build stamina. You want to build conditioning so you can go through any situation. You don't want to not shortchange yourself in the training. And he didn't do I don't know if he did weight training or he didn't do weight training for Crawford. But, he was not at his optimal, obviously. And I think because his father keep on conveying to him that Crawford's this ominous guy. I guess in Sean's psyche, he had to fight against that as well. His father didn't believe that it was doable all the way to the end. He was seeing Terrence constantly as a threat instead of seeing Terrence as this guy that Sean could beat, And so you could tell your father was like unnecessarily trying to warn Sean all the time, and Sean didn't seem to be up for it. So Sean needed to really put in the effort he did against Errol against Terrence, and he didn't do that. So he got the results because again, you don't play boxing. You don't ever cut corners in boxing like that. Especially at the highest level, you gotta go to the max. You gotta push yourself to the maximum. Okay, you gotta push yourself hard because if you don't, you're gonna cheat your own self, and you could get seriously hurt in that ring, which is what Sean's father spared him because he was about to get butchered. He was about to get filleted. His father saw it, and he said, "You know what? My son don't need to go out like that." Right? All right. So, Terrence Crawford is one of the things that I love about Terrence Crawford. I keep on saying it over and over. Is his plastic nature. So he, not necessarily the most accurate when he's throwing shots in a fight. Necessarily, he's kind of rubbery. But his timing and just the placement and just these unique kinds of punches that he throws, because it's in between two types of punches, that kind of thing is what makes Terrence so interesting. And he can kind of dance while he's standing up watching you. He's kind of doing this weird little dance thing, and his hands move independent to his legs. Very rubbery. So it's not easy to get a beat on him when he really wants to. He does a lot of trading and stuff, but he could sharpen up and be really precise as well. I've seen him very precise with his punches and shots. But just his movement sometimes is just so, like, you can't get a proper read or beat on it. And sometimes you fall short with a punch. It's very deceptive. So Terrence Crawford, that's his thing. His thing is his plasticity. And it seems as though he's instinctively makes adjustments, which is what is very interesting. Whereas Floyd he can tell you exactly what he did. Terrence has that sort of awareness. He's kind of just goes on instinct at times to get the adjustment, which is very interesting to me. But I gotta say, this is not a fight I can predict. I'm not trying to predict, even though I just talked about certain things with Errol. That doesn't mean that Errol's gonna win the fight. And Crawford definitely has a lot of assets, and he's a smart fighter. He's always watching, trying to read you. People say he's a counterpuncher, which, yes, he uses counterpunching, but he also is a guy who throws combinations. He will initiate attacks. He'll bait you in. He does various things. He's good off the back foot or the front foot, even though most of the time he knocks out people on the back foot because he walks them into something, usually the right hook. He's got decent power, decent snap, but as we all know, Terrence Crawford really tries to hit you where you least expect it, and you're not bracing for it, and that's what gets you out of there. He'll stun you, and then he'll probably take you out. So Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence is going to be a good fight, but the point I was trying to make is that you can side with Terrence, you can side with Errol, but have respect for the fighters, because you got to understand what these guys put themselves through. And remember, Errol's a big dude. He should be moving up. Terrence is a big dude even. He should be moving up. Terrence should be going to 154. So just bear those things in mind when you're talking about these two fantastic fighters. I got about 6 minutes left. We're going to talk a little bit about, like I said before, Jermall Charlo versus Canelo Alvarez. And my whole point was that you haven't seen all of Errol Spence. So whereas people are kind of thinking that this is all that Errol Spence has to bring to the Terrence Crawford table, no, he doesn't. That's not true, right? All right. Now, when it comes to Jermall Charlo versus Canelo Alvarez, I had a subscriber asking me and saying to me, listen, Jermall Charlo, he's going to have to vacate his titles to face Canelo. That's not, he don't need to do that, because Canelo, when he moved up to face Bivol, he kept his 168-pound titles. And Mel's going to do the same thing. He's going to keep the 154. Will he come back down to 154? I don't know. I don't know. When he goes to 168, he'll know, and he'll figure out what he wants to do. He may stay at 168, depending on how the result and outcome is and the kind of fight. He may stay at 168. So I think Mel's bulking up for the long haul. I think he's going in there to beat Canelo. And as much as Canelo has all these great names on his resume and stuff, he has certain deficiencies I hope he's working on. Because if he's not, I'm telling you, man, that foot activity, it always starts with the feet. That foot activity that Mel has, and the intelligence that he uses with his feet, it's going to win him the fight, period. It's just going to win him the fight. Because he can get into position quicker than Canelo could get in position. Mel has gone 12 rounds with guys who've been tough, who could take his punches, so that's not going to be an issue. So Mel versus Canelo, that's a good fight. It's a very good fight. I favor Mel in that fight. I'm not saying hands down he cooks Canelo, but I'm saying I can see him winning that fight, and quite decisively. Quite decisively. So he gets a clear win over Canelo. I can see that happening. Whether the judge will give him or not, I don't know. I know Mel's going to, at some point, if Canelo's fading or something, he's going to test him. He's going to really try and go for the kill. I can see Mel doing something like that. Would he get caught in the middle of that? Who knows? Because Canelo's a good counterpuncher as well, right? So I just wanted to talk about that and just let y'all guys know he not giving up anything. And really, the guy who benefits the most is him, because he's not giving up anything to face Canelo. He's still going to be undisputed champion if he lose. But Canelo's not gaining anything by him being undisputed champion at 154, because in order for Canelo to fight for both belts, he'd have to be at 154. He'd have to make 154. And then, fight for the 168 belt because he's the 168 champion. So he's not really getting the better of the deal. Actually, Mel's getting a really great deal. So, and then Mel was supposed to face Canelo before. So he always thought he had the tools to deal with that style. Anyway, Canelo has the same style, more or less. So Mel's obviously going to think that he can still beat Canelo, because he's looking at Canelo. Is Canelo even working on his footwork, his foot cardio, his foot activity? Probably not. Canelo's banking probably on his size and the fact that he faced much bigger guys and his power to kind of sway the fight in his direction. But I don't think that's something he should count on. But it's definitely a great challenge for Canelo, because Mel's, of the two Charlos, I think Mel is the more dangerous one. Even though he suffered a loss in his career, I think that Mel has faced the tougher challenges than Mal. Mal has not faced as tough a challenge as Mel did, in my opinion. I may be wrong. I'm hungry of fighters and everything. So I think that Mel is actually going to be a tougher fight for Canelo than Mal, I think. I definitely think so, especially because Mel knows he's coming up in weight. He knows he has to build strength. He knows he has to build, enough punch resistance to deal with Canelo's punches. I think Mel's really going to put in the work to make sure September, he definitely is a competitor, and he can win the fight. So I definitely think that that's what's going to go down. With respect to Haney versus Shakur, a lot of people are saying, that Devin Haney, that Shakur is right to ask for more money and stuff like that. Let me say something. Again, the important thing here is that Shakur activated his mandatory clause. If he hadn't done that, what's the point? Right? Secondly, people are talking, Shakur brought up Lomachenko, that Devin Haney had a bigger split for Lomachenko. Listen, man, Lomachenko is a free divisional, right? 5-time world champion. Okay? 3-divisional, 5-time world champion. And he, at lightweight, these are the people he faced. Roy Linares, when Roy Linares was the number 1 lightweight in the world for the WBA title. He then faced Jose Pedraza, who was the WBO champion. He took that title. He then fought Luke Campbell for the WBC, vacant WBC title. He took that title. All right. Then he faced Teofimo Lopez for the IBF title, right? He wouldn't have been undisputed because he was the franchise champion, but he would have had all the titles. And he lost to Teofimo Lopez, who right now is the 140-pound lineal WBO champion. He then went on to face Richard Comey, who was the former IBF world champion. So in the lightweight division, Loma faced every single champion. And then he also faced Devin Haney, who was the undisputed champion of the world. You cannot, come on now. This is the man that faced Guillermo Rigondeaux, Nicholas Walters, Rocky Martinez, Orlando Salido, Gary Russell Jr. Listen to the names, people. All right? So, come on now. You can't be giving this man crumbs. He got a resume. Right? He's beaten a lot of world champions. I think it's 10 or 12 world champions, something like that. All right? He's faced a lot of world champions. You cannot, I forgot also Anthony Corolla, who was also a world champion at lightweight, right? So this man has faced a lot of world champions. Shakur Stevenson has only in his entire career so far faced two. He ain't faced no top 10 fighter at lightweight. He's done absolutely nothing on the elite level at lightweight. All right. You cannot compare a guy who has faced 5 to 6 world champions at lightweight alone, far less 10 times the amount of world champions as Shakur Stevenson has, and you're gonna pay Shakur Stevenson the same kind of money or more to face Devin Haney. Lomachenko has faced more world champions than Devin Haney has. And Devin Haney has faced world champions. He's faced 5 world champions at lightweight. And Loma has faced more than him. So, of course, Lomachenko is going to get like a 60-40, a 65-35 split. Of course he's going to get that. His whole body of work, he deserves that. Plus, he has been on pay-per-view, which Shakur has not been on. Okay? Lomachenko's been on pay-per-view versus Teofimo Lopez. So to tell me that Lomachenko doesn't deserve a 60-40 split where Devin Haney still gets the greater half of that thing, you want to get, what 70-30? Maybe 70-30 he's looking at Shakur. But again, this will be a pay-per-view. Okay? Devin Haney isn't begging Shakur to face him. He's supposed to be his mandatory, but he hasn't enforced it. He's supposed to be. But he's supposed to write a letter to the WBO, because I think it's through the WBO, confirming that he's the mandatory for Devin Haney. And then they begin negotiations. And if they can't get through, purse bid. All right? Shakur's ready to let this go. He's calling Devin Haney a duck, and he's willing to let it go and keep on going. No. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, Shakur. You have to take it now. Don't tell me about the money available and all of that. Undisputed, you're not gonna get that again. Not gonna get that again. That don't just come every day. You gotta jump at it now, and you gotta aggressively go for it now. And you have to convince Bob Arum and Jay Prince this is the right move. All right, because that's what Devin Haney did. As soon as Kambosos said this put an offer on the table, Haney grabbed it. I tell you, Devin Haney's attitude, he separated himself from guys like Shakur and all these other guys. He ain't making no excuses. He ain't sitting down there trying to no, he's hungry for the fights. You could tell Devin Haney been ducked. So when Shakur's like sitting down all comfy and cozy and top rank, talking about, that's too low a figure. Cool, it's too low a figure. But Devin Haney didn't say that. He jumped at it and he went at it, and he gets paid more money than he was getting paid. What that Kambosos was offering, because he knew what was at stake. He knew what bargaining chip he wanted. So I don't get that kind of hunger from Shakur. And they're saying, well, he's negotiating. No, he done with negotiate. He says he's moving on. And he called Devin Haney a duck. He called a guy who's faced better competition than him in his entire career a duck. This is the same guy that said Lomachenko beat him. Lomachenko ain't even win 4 rounds. Shakur right now is behaving like the villain. All right? He is punking people who actually earn their stripes in boxing. It's things that he ain't done. He's punking them because he doesn't have any intention of facing Devin Haney. He's wasting Devin Haney's time. But this is a fight I definitely love to see. I was hearing people say, we need to thank Terrence Bud Crawford for making the fight with Errol Spence. How you going to thank Terrence Bud Crawford? He's not the one that decides whether the fight is made or not. That's Errol. And Errol actually sacrificed some of his earnings to make a split with Terrence so Terrence could get the fight. Such is Errol's confidence that he could beat Terrence. Whether he'll beat him or not, I don't know. But he wanted to make that big fight, and he got it done. This is the guy that said, I'm not facing nobody else. I'm not facing Keith Thurman, nobody else. I want this dude. Errol wanted Terrence. Errol wasn't playing. Now, the narrative is that, Errol's running from Terrence and blah, blah, blah. Errol did exactly what he said he would do. He said he's going to clean up all them other guys. He's going to get all the belts, and then he's going to face Terrence. And it's exactly what he's doing. The guy who was telling the truth all the time was Errol. Y'all need to sift through the nonsense. Like I said before, some people will forsake you. Other people will sell you out and betray you. Sometimes you have to go through the crucible alone. It's a man. Where were all his friends at after he got in the accident? It whittled down to his family. He sobered up when he realized all his drinking buddies and stuff wasn't there for him. The people who was clowning with him and stuff, they weren't there for him. He narrowed down his circle. Because a lot of people will follow you for what you can give them. They don't care about you. They don't care about you like that. They care about what you can give them. Is that real life? Yes. Does that mean that you blank people? No. But you must have a realistic picture of what life really is. Sometimes you do things expecting nothing in return. It's rare. I've seen people like that. I've witnessed people in my life like that. But most people, they ain't doing something for you for no reason at all. Nah. They doing it because they want to get something back. They want something back from you. Okay? That's life. And that's the same thing Errol Spence realized. He got a whole bunch of friends around him, but they did for what they could get. Soon as he couldn't provide that anymore, they were gone. Adrian Broner, same thing. Got people around him left, right, and center, even family members. Soon as he's not hot anymore, can't generate that cash, can't get them stuff that they demand that he give them. They demand, and they're doing as if his stuff is theirs, is their stuff. Once he couldn't provide, because these boxers are very generous, they're very kind-hearted, they're soft-hearted people. Because you go into a career where what you really trying to do is kill another man in the ring, you begin to have a sense of humanity because you tend to value life. You tend to value people. And some of the most soft-hearted, generous people you'll ever find in this world are boxers. That's why they go broke. Because they like to see people happy around them. Because they value life. They understand when you're going in the ring, your mentality is to kill. Kill, kill, kill. Just like if you're going into war, you're going in there to kill people. And taking a life ain't no small thing, people. And if that's the intention, you may not kill a person, but your intention is to kill them. Your intention is to knock them out, render them senseless, render them unconscious, concuss them, hurt them so bad they can't get back up. That's the name of the game. Boxing is a hurt business. It's not a game you're playing in there. Okay? You get somebody hurt, you want to finish them. And what does finish them mean? What does that ever mean? It means render them unconscious. And if they die, they die. Because when you're in a certain mindset, you're not thinking about that anymore. You're thinking of hurting the person. You really are. All right? When you go to war, of course, you don't necessarily know the people that you're going to war with, but you're not going there to let them shoot up your place. It's either you or them. Somebody got to go, and trust me, it's going to be them. That's how war works. What's happening in the Ukraine and Russia? We got some Russian soldiers defecting, but the Ukrainians ain't playing. This ain't no game. They're going to kill. They will kill to make sure they protect where they live. There's people in intelligence, there's people in the military who their job, even in my country or any country, is to protect the borders and to protect the sovereignty of their nation. You sign up to be in that atmosphere, military atmosphere. If a vehicle or boat is coming into your waters, even if they don't fire a shot, you may shoot to kill. I want you to understand, to protect the sovereignty of the borders, to protect the borders of a country, the military may resort to shoot on sight and destroy whatever is trying to enter their space. We've seen it in Venezuela, where the Venezuelans back in the day used to shoot and kill people who were trying to go into their space. That's how serious they are about protecting their and securing their borders. The people who come in with contraband into my country, for example, they take a risk, because if the military sees them with a high-speed craft trying to enter the space, they will warn them, but then after that, shoot to kill, destroy that craft. It must not get past the space. This is the way how this works. The Coast Guard and the military of a country, if you are violating airspace, they will warn you, or maybe they won't. And then the next thing they're going to do is destroy your craft, immobilize your craft. However that means, whether we have to fire something at you and blow it up, that's the way how it goes. They don't hesitate to protect the sovereignty of their country. And the mindset for that, you can't even blink twice. You have to kill. It's a killing mentality. It's the opposite of what we as civilians are taught to live like. So the cost of maintaining the civility of society that you see here, the cost is in lives. You have to understand that that's why the military is not a democracy. Military people, and even the police service to some degree, is not a democracy. They have what is called a hierarchy of power, a chain of command. Because certain decisions, which are very critical and important, must be made immediately. There's no deliberation. There's no debating. You have to make instantaneous decisions. It's the same thing with boxing. You have to make decisions in that ring that are immediate. They must be rehearsed. That is why boxers are schooled in boxing. It's not just, okay, I'm coming with my style. We're going to work on the fly. And no, I ain't going to practice nothing. I'm just going to go in there and fight. No. It don't work like that. It's regimented. It's discipline. You have to listen. You have to obey, or it will cost you your life in that square circle. It is not the same as how you and I have the luxuries of choosing to do what we feel like doing. And if we mess up, it's okay. No, it's not like that. So, for those of you who are like the glamour of boxing, oh, he knocked him out. Oh, my goodness, he could really knock out. You got to understand, boxers may have attitude and all of that, but it's regimented. Boxing's a regimented. You have to be doing things, repetition. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of things they do and they carry their bodies through to get to where they are. And so with Shakur should grab that opportunity. You're not going to get one like that. It's not promised to you to face the undisputed champion and become the undisputed champion. And of course, they would have an immediate rematch if Devin Haney could make the weight. If Shakur was to beat Devin Haney. Because the question is, what is Shakur's status after he beats Devin Haney? See, the prize doesn't have to be monetary. Shakur shouldn't be worrying about money. If the opportunity presents itself, like Jermell Charlo, you jump at it. You make sure you get your team in order and say, this is a fight I need. This is the fight of fights. This is the fight I need. Like if your life depends on it, because this will skyrocket me into a different status. And I'm going to be here at lightweight. He can move up afterwards because I'm going to have that tremendous fight with Tank Davis after that. That's how Shakur should be thinking. He shouldn't have to think twice about this. The reward is greater. It's greater. The potential reward is much greater than the cost. He should be leaping at this. Not turning his back and saying you're a duck and walking away. You crazy? You don't walk away from undisputed. You don't. You force that thing. He either vacate or face me. You carry that thing to purse bid. You go as far as you can. You don't walk away from undisputed. How many undisputed fighters have we had at lightweight? We could count them. Right? So why on earth would you turn your back on that? Don't turn your back on that, Shakur. You believe in yourself. And you push for that fight. That's a fight we all want to see. That fight will make money. And if Shakur is serious, really serious about making that fight happen, because he started chirping early. It don't matter what Bob Arum say. It don't matter what Jay Prince say. You the boss. You're the one that bring in the money. You make sure that there's no losing in this, Shakur. If you lose to Devin Haney, he was the undisputed champion. He faced tough competition. There's no losing in this. There's no losing. It's a win-win for Shakur every step of the way. This is something he should go for now, because how many 25-year-olds have got a shot at undisputed? Teofimo Lopez. That's it. Teofimo Lopez. Josh Taylor became undisputed at 26, 27. 25-year-olds. Devin Haney is the youngest undisputed champion, right? I think Teofimo Lopez became undisputed at 23. Teofimo Lopez never became undisputed. And I thought about it. Devin Haney is the youngest undisputed champion ever in the four-belt era. Shakur has the opportunity to become the next youngest undisputed champion. Shakur has nothing. You have nothing to lose, brother, by taking this. It'll only help your reputation. Even if Devin beats you, okay, he had more experience anyway at the top level. You have nothing to lose. That fight's going to be competitive anyway. You have nothing to lose taking this fight. Not one thing. Not one thing. And if you win, Oh man, if you win, it's gonna change your life. It already changed Devin Haney's life. So I don't understand why Shakur would even walk away from this. This is not something to walk away from. That's why I said, and I will say it again, nobody wants to face Devin Haney like that. Nobody. They know it's going to be a tough fight. Shakur knows this would be a tough fight. And more importantly, Bob Arum knows it would be a tough fight. As does Jay Prince. They know. They old enough to know. That's why they say ain't enough money. Oh, that have nothing to do with whether there's enough money. The prize, undisputed, sets up Shakur to face Tank. A fight that Shakur, again, might be able to win. Might. And have Tank and Haney on your resume? Are you kidding me? And wins over them? Superstar. So, and cash cow, because he'll take Tank's cash cow status. So the question is for Shakur, why are you saying that you moving on? Are you crazy? Oh, there's not enough money in the don't even come with money. You're talking about undisputed. That's a big leverage card. You shouldn't be backing out from undisputed. Come on, man. What are you doing? So if they're negotiating the deal and Shakur's still in it, that's what we want to see. We want to see Shakur versus Devin Haney. We want to see that. As fans, of course we want to see that. The biggest fight at lightweight is Tank versus Devin. The next biggest fight at lightweight right now is Shakur versus Devin. And while I think it's a step-up fight for Shakur to see if he could get flying colors, because I think Devin has way too much experience for Shakur right now. The kind of guys that he's faced, because they both are more or less around the same skill level, around the same. I'm not saying they're the same skill level, but just the way how Devin conducts himself and the way how Shakur conducts it. Devin, because he's so long, he could not be as accurate. He can be not as viperish, you know. He's a big dude. Shakur is big, but not as big as Devin. And so because of that and Devin's movement and stuff, it's going to be a difficult fight for Shakur. And Shakur will be a difficult fight for Devin, but I just think Devin's experience pushes him over the edge, plus his size. I think that's what makes the difference in that fight. You know, Shakur hasn't faced that kind of competition, and therefore Devin has grown since the last time Shakur has faced him by leaps and bounds. And so the Devin that dealt with Shakur is going to deal with Shakur in a lot smarter way. It's not just the boxing skills. It's not just the boxing knowledge. It's also the attitude, the approach, the will. Devin's been through adversity, and all of these things. So Devin has a lot more and a nuance and a lot of veteran moves he's learned from these veteran fighters. So that's going to be the difference, I think, because they're more or less, I think Shakur is a sharper, cleaner, much more clinical boxer than Devin. No doubt about that. But Devin, besides being a dog and doing dog things, Devin has attributes which could neutralize that, as well as his movement. His movement's tricky. Devin has tricky movement, which is why Lomachenko had problems actually landing his flurries on Devin. He'd catch him with a jab, he'd catch him with one or two punches, but he couldn't put a whole combination together on Devin. He couldn't catch him with a nice body shot like he did with Luke Campbell. He couldn't catch him with, the shots that he was hitting Teofimo Lopez with in his head nonstop. He couldn't catch Devin with those kinds of shots. And the reason being that Devin's defense is much better. Devin's movement is kind of awkward. And but he was able to sort of wrestle Devin on the inside. As Devin said, he would be rougher on the inside, and he was rougher on the inside. So Devin would use his forearm and keep his chin back this way. He pushed Lomachenko's chin back to keep him kind of at bay. But Lomachenko knows martial arts and stuff, so he was able to lock up Devin, fling him. He was doing some little ruffian things on the inside. He even elbowed him on the inside. elbowed him on the inside and stuff. So that, that saps some of Devin's energy. But you won't get that with Shakur. Shakur is a cleaner fighter. He's physical, but he's not really physical bodily. And Devin's a lot more physical body wise. So, and then with those tricks that he just learned from Lomachenko, the little tricks he learned from Jojo Diaz, because he learned a lot from different fighters. All those little tricks Jojo Diaz showed him, how to cut distance, how to get to the inside, and all that kind of stuff. Devin should have learned a lot how to deal with those things. So when Shakur comes to the table, who's a sterling, top class kind of guy, but just kind of super clean, Devin could not only outpoint him if he wanted to, but he could rough him up in spots, really bang on him in spots, pick his spots and target him, change the rhythm and pace of the fight in different places, just kind of exploit Shakur down the stretch when Devin knows he's going to fade a little bit. He could close the distance, lock up on Shakur, and then kind of rough him up on the inside, walk him to the ropes, those kinds of things. So, Devin, because he's physically bigger than Shakur, Shakur, I need to bulk up more. He need to get stronger, but he just came at lightweight, so he ain't going to be strong like that, So that's why I said Devin, I see Devin beating Shakur because he's got too many little tricks he's learned from those veterans, which Shakur, unfortunately for him, never experienced to that degree because he never had to fight these guys in an actual ring where they're trying to win, and with 8-ounce gloves. So it's a totally different thing. Even though he sparred Lomachenko, kind of knows the general style, there's wrinkles to Lomachenko's game. He got a really good grappling game, for example. Lomachenko got good grappling game. He got, he's very physical. You could tell he knows jiu-jitsu. You could tell Lomachenko knows jiu-jitsu. And so he knew how to lock up Devin Haney's arm. He knew how to twist the arm a certain way. And Devin now going to learn all those little tricks to use on Shakur. He can twist up his arm on the inside. Sometimes he can keep on punching the body on the inside. He can lock him up a certain way. So and he could turn him a certain way. He could position him a certain way. So there's all these little tricks and wrinkles that Dev learned against Lomachenko and against Jojo Diaz. Jojo Diaz is another good fighter who positioned. I think Jojo's supposed to fight this weekend. So I'm going to check out that. But Jojo Diaz is another really good fighter. He don't always be up for the challenge, and sometimes he don't throw enough punches, but Jojo a bad boy. He find them gaps and spaces, and he really puts it together. And I wish Shakur would face Jojo, but I don't know if Jojo would want to face Shakur. But that would be a good matchup for Shakur. Because Jojo, he will work you on the inside. Jojo's an expert at working on the inside. And I would like to see how Shakur would handle that. Jojo's a guy, you can't slip up on Jojo. If Jojo gets an upper hand on you, he will work you. And he's an excellent inside fighter. So that would be a good fight for Shakur. Jojo's a dangerous guy, though. He's a dangerous guy. When he's highly motivated, he's a dangerous, dangerous guy. So Shakur would have to be on his A game with Jojo. I rate Jojo very highly. I know he lost a couple of fights, but I rate Jojo very highly as a veteran. I mean, he is topping out at the highest weight possible, but I would love to see Shakur versus Jojo, Ryan versus Jojo, Jojo versus anybody, because Jojo is a guy, you're not going to stop him. That's not going to happen. And he going to get his body shots in. He's going to get his stuff in. So Lomachenko versus Shakur, that's a good fight, but Loma just gave 110% there. I don't think he's going to be, trying. And what's Loma fighting for? Loma want to fight for titles. I mean, why would he fight Shakur? For what? Like, what's he going to get? He's not getting anything. So I don't think that makes any sense to Loma. I don't know if Loma will do it to test Shakur, just to say put him on his resume. But I just don't think Loma would be fighting the way how he fought Devin Haney. I mean, Loma brought everything he had to Devin Haney's game. He really tried to fight Devin Haney. He wouldn't be doing the same for Shakur. He had nothing at stake. What's at stake? Just a young gun coming up? Nah. And yeah, he sparred Shakur, so it should be a tough fight for him as well. But it's not necessarily Loma got nothing to gain by facing Shakur. You know what I mean? So I don't know if Loma would face Shakur, but what I would say is, let me tell you some of the guys that I think Shakur he should face, because he's new to lightweight. So there's Martin, Jojo Diaz, You got at lightweight, you got this kid. What's his name? I forgot his name now. Um, Jorge Linares. That's a good fight for Shakur. Jorge Linares. Shakur is probably gonna outbox him for a bit, but if he slip up, Linares gonna get him. You know what I mean? It's Jorge Linares. Um, um, just get a little bit more experience with the higher level fighters. If you're gonna take it slow, if you're not gonna take this undisputed fight and jump up and face Devin Haney, then face some of the guys who could give you a good test and help you to pass your test. So Linares, Jojo Diaz, Frank Martin. Frank Martin is on the come up though, so that might be a level below. But then again, you might want to face a tough, strong lightweight who's got buzz behind him. You could go with Frank Martin. It's a riskier fight because he's younger, he's stronger, etc. Whereas if you go against a guy like Jojo Diaz, who's a smaller guy coming up, that's more your fight because he came from featherweight. So Jojo Diaz would be a perfect guy. Lomachenko, again, perfect guy because he's coming up in weight. And you also have, Jorge Linares, who's, again, another perfect guy because he came up also in weight. So, and again, they have age. They're veterans. So you can learn stuff from them, pick up stuff from them. And at the same time, they're beatable, So, if I was matching up Shakur, those would be some of the guys that I'd put him in there with. Before I have him face a Devin Haney. I just don't think that's a good idea. I think that matchup favors Devin Haney. Even though Shakur is much more sharper, much more precise a fighter, I don't think he'll stay as sharp or as precise in that fight. Devin Haney's going to put him in a position where he's going to have to do things he's not comfortable doing. And I think because of that, Shakur would unravel a bit. He wouldn't look as sharp. He wouldn't look as tight, So that's just my breakdown. I'm what you need. I wish you guys a blessed day. I thought I would share with you from the word. I thought also I would let you realize how much boxing is like life. I think if you were to tell me what kind of sport boxing is, I would say it's a life sport, particularly for personal improvement and growth. And a lot of things that happen in real life, a lot of things, if you're a Christian, a lot of things that happen to Jesus, it really happens to boxers as well. People tend to jump on the gravy train when it's hot and then jump off of it when it's not so hot. And I think that's wrong. I think that the media also tries to be like, Judas. They'll sell you out for a certain amount of money. It's not about truth. It's about selling a narrative. Devin Haney proved himself, man. The man proved himself. How can you look at this dude who's trying to get to work? He's trying to get Shakur Stevenson. Otherwise, he wouldn't make no offer. He'd just go up. He'd say, "All right, I'm too big for this way. I'm going up." He said, "Look, I'm wanting trying to make the fight with Shakur Stevenson or with Tank Davis." So he's still at 135. Yeah, he's probably doing a deal with Regis Prograis as well. But he's at 135 offering Shakur Stevenson because he wants to see if Shakur Stevenson's serious. Obviously, Shakur Stevenson don't look like he really serious. He don't really want that work. It don't look like he really want to be undisputed right at this point in time. It don't look that way. It really don't. Which is sad. Because Haney wanted. He definitely wanted, but he wanted to know if Shakur's serious. And we could tell. We could tell that he ain't serious. He been talking smack, but he not serious. Because his team not serious. I told you, if this was the fight that's supposed to happen, Bob Arum done already announced it. Bob Arum be 100% behind it. Bob Arum is not going to sacrifice one of the guys from his stable. He already sacrificed Lomachenko to Devin Haney, and then they create this whole narrative that Loma won the fight because he did better than people expected, right? They doing this. They did with Pacquiao versus Mayweather. They doing the same with Devin. All right, they try to make it sound like their guy, which is Lomachenko, like he won the fight. Lomachenko didn't win nothing. Come on, man, people. We got to be honest. He did well. He had a great 10th and 11th round. Those are the best rounds of the fight, of any fighter, right? But that'll make him win the fight, man. Come on now. All right, I'm what you need. I'm going to catch you guys later. Peace.